Welcome back into another XRP pod, and today is going to be fun because we're going to dive into something that I've had a lot of you ask about, and that is the Quant Network. That's right. We're going to talk about the Quant Network, and I thought, okay, well, I need an expert, and none other than, of course, Mr. Jesse coming in from Apex Crypto Insights. How are you, Jesse?
I'm doing great, Paul. It's an honor to be on your show. How are you?
Nice to see you. Hey guys, just to let you know, I always try to wear a jacket for you because I feel like that's just a respect, to the audience for your time. But today I am actually on vacation, spending some time with the kids, so I'm trying to do a little bit less content. Jesse, of course, was so kind to come on and really break down what's going on in the Quant Network. And this is something that has been, not only have I got a lot of stuff on X about this, people asking about it, but also comments, lots of comments around what is going on with basically a multi chain network. That's what it is. And this is something that is a little bit different than maybe what you guys think. Remember, this is not a blockchain, and it's more of an over defining, what do they call it? The overledger, I guess, premise is.
Overledger, and but it's an operating system.
Yeah,
It's yeah.
exactly.
Oh,
Yeah.
this one's gonna be good, Paul.
So, and the background on Gilbert was what started getting me very intrigued in what they're doing. So, if you guys haven't done some research on Gilbert, is it Verdian or
Verdian, Gilbert
Verdian?
Verdian.
Okay. So, this is the guy who pretty much founded, he's a UK based guy, but he's former government, enterprise security. So he knows his stuff. And I started diving in a little bit more deeper some of his historical projects that he's been involved in, very black box kind of stuff. So that usually means sometimes I'm worried about that though, Jesse. I always think psyop whenever I see those kinds of
Mm.
markers. But it also could be something that is very deep dive. In my early era, I worked with guys from DARPA when I was at Microsoft.
Oh, nice.
These guys were next level
Oh yeah,
brainiacs. We
yeah,
had a bunch of geniuses in our own group. These guys were next level. I mean, like the
yeah.
Einstein levels
Well,
over at DARPA, who essentially really created the internet, guys. Let's just be just remember that. That's where it did come from. So, Jesse, I want to get into a little bit about it. Let's first go into, there's going to be some people out there that don't know anything about Quant Network. So, first thing is, let's explain what they're trying to do.
okay. Well, it's actually what they did. It's
Right.
done.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, yeah. No. So Gilbert Verdian is one of the top cybersecurity experts in the world. And if you want me to go down a deep rabbit hole rant on Gilbert Verdian, oh my goodness. But he understood that in order to he understood that we would not get blockchain adoption if we could not connect the legacy systems that exist today, which is where really all the use cases and the demand is. Because
Right.
he knew that we needed to create an operating system to connect the legacy systems to blockchain. You couldn't do a layer one, layer two, layer three. It doesn't work. Because right now, the interoperability that we've seen is mostly at the DeFi level. But what people in crypto are not getting, and it's just because they haven't listened to Gilbert. It's I wouldn't have understood this if I had not listened to Gilbert Verdi and explain it. But like the central banks, commercial banks, these big fintechs, corporations, every industry that they're running, all these industries are stuck in legacy systems, which means they cannot speak to blockchain. Like all their software,
Right.
their databases, everything that every industry is running on, literally cannot talk to blockchain.
Hmm.
It's not compatible, and so you have to bridge that old world with the new world. And the only way you can do that is you have to create an operating system. And he understood this because he knew that he had to do technically what Microsoft did for the third industrial revolution.
Yep.
He had to create an operating system, and that's what he did. So Microsoft Windows is Quant Overledger is an operating system that literally allows all of the legacy systems that exist today to connect to blockchain, and not only connect the blockchain seamlessly in a fully scalable way, secure, future proof, secure everything. It also allows all of these companies and corporations and central banks to pick multiple blockchains. So pick the best features of
Hmm.
each blockchain and build what is called an MDAP, a multi chain application. They call them
Right.
maps now. So that's what he did. So now not only are these legacy systems able to connect to blockchain seamlessly, they're also able to pick the best features. So and build what are called MDApps. So like having trying to get blockchain adoption without Quant is almost like having the internet but being stuck with one website.
Right.
You just can't get the full benefits. It just wouldn't work. So that's kind of the idea.
The fact that, what draws me into this is the idea that it is truly a blockchain API gateway. So this
Exactly.
sets above other chains what they call, many people will call to as layer 2.5. And it's kind of unique because being blockchain agnostic, which means this is non-invasive interoperability, which is unlike a lot of cross-chain bridges that we have right now. That's the other thing that is kind of unique. Overledger doesn't really require an underlying blockchain to change their code or anything like that. It just sets on top, right? Is
Yep,
that the way I understand it?
100%. It's called
Yeah,
Overledger. Sometimes they call it an overlay because it just overlays all the different blockchains.
right,
And so you can pick the best, like any blockchain. And what's crazy with Coin Fusion is that anybody can bring their own connector, bring their own node, and connect any blockchain. Like you can
right.
connect anything, and we participate.
Well, the
It's
reason this got my interest was because we were working with a company because we do consulting with some pretty major businesses out there, and they had an exploit in a bridge. So obviously they got their white hat and black hats together. They're trying to do some forensic analysis on the hack. There was some assets that were lost, but this idea of bridge-free security pretty much kind of won me over immediately because I saw, okay, this is a problem that's going to continue to happen, especially if we go to scale. So the fact that Quant kind of deals with this up front is pretty interesting. My question is, how do they do it?
yeah, and and I didn't prepare for that one really. Uh, it's way technical. It took them years to build this. They're removing the
Yeah.
like, yeah, like God knows how they do it, but they completely remove the need for bridges. Bridges are just not safe.
Yeah,
It won't
remember
work, and
guys,
they'll never
this
fix it.
this is it's basically a token wrapper is what a lot of these smart contract bridges
Yeah.
are doing. So,
So you have to rely on a third party or like a centralized
yep.
party when you're using a bridge. With Quant, you don't. It removes all of that. It's
Yeah.
hyper decentralized. You're not relying on bridges at all. It's it's so next level.
So
And
Jesse, when you look at Quant and everybody, the first thing I think a lot of people will look to and say, "Oh, well, wait a minute, these guys are tied in with central bank digital currencies. They're in the TradFi group. They're highly compliant. They've got some patent protections. This looks like legacy. This looks like legacy finance. It doesn't look like next gen finance." How would you argue against that?
oh my goodness, so Gilbert Verdian literally created the ISO TC 307. In 2015, he created the interoperability standard for blockchain. In 2015, you're talking 11 years ago,
Yep.
before the industry even knew that we needed interoperability for blockchain to get the full adoption.
Yep.
And he also understood that in order to get the interoperability, not only did you have to set the standard, not only did you need interoperability, but you also needed to set the standard at an ISO level. He understood that too, and he did this in 2015. And and this is interoperability standard for blockchain. This is not, this is not legacy stuff, right? And then they went on to create the technology Quant Overledger that meets the
Right.
standards. Then they patented every single angle, and they've been building now Quant Overledger in certain steps because this is providing the true interoperability solution for commercial banks, central banks, and the major corporations in the world. So this has to be secure. This is why it took them so many years, and they had to do it in certain steps. They
Right.
created the firewalls, then Quant Fusion 2.5, and the rollups, and so on. So this is why they've been following a certain sequence. But and that I'm just scraping a surface there. They also created the Secure Asset Transfer Protocol, which is literally the re-architecturing of the internet with the IETF, the Internet Engineering Task Force, and MIT. They are responsible for the last 30 years of the internet we have today. Gilbert Verdian approached them like 3 years ago and said, we need to create a new protocol for moving value over the internet because he
Mhm.
understood this 20 years ago. This is where his industry comes from. He's one of the
Yeah.
top cybersecurity experts in the world. He was literally head of cybersecurity for the UK Treasury, literally protecting the pound. He was a buyer for RTGS systems for governments. I mean, the guy is unreal. But he approached MIT and the ITF, said we need to create a new protocol for the internet because it was never meant to move value. And they said, yeah, of course, because he's the GOAT. And literally, they started working on this 3 years ago. And Quant, it's literally, I think it's Martin Hargreaves that wrote the paper for the open, it used to be called Open Digital Asset Protocol. Now they
Yep.
call it Secure Asset Transfer Protocol. And it's literally Quant's team that literally wrote the first draft for this protocol. And I just want to explain to you a bit, Paul, about this, about the ITF a bit, just for people
Okay.
to understand the significance. The Internet Engineering Task Force and MIT, like I was saying, they're responsible for the internet we have today, like all the standards and the SMTP protocol and the development and standardization of the internet. They're the ones who head that out. And when you look at the ITF, who's part of the ITF, it's all like the head technologists for IBM, Microsoft, Accenture, like all the most powerful corporations and tech companies in the world are all part of the ITF. Well, their head guys are for technology to put their input on the development and advancement of the internet, because I mean, this is the internet, this has to be done right. Well, Quant is literally chairing the SATP, so literally Quant is above all these people. And I forgot to mention the CIA, the NSA, I mean, they're all part of the ITF. And Quant is literally the ones writing the draft for the ITF Secure Asset Transfer Protocol.
Mhm.
And Claire, she's another employee of Quant, I think she's the manager of product development. She's literally co-chair of the Secure Asset Transfer Protocol.
Yeah.
So literally, Quant is guiding the re-architecturing of the internet, which will allow digital assets to move from one network to another. And to do that, you have to have an API gateway on each side, and Quant's that API gateway. It's one of the only compliant gateways for this new internet
It's kind of
protocol.
like a Swift without Swift in
Oh my
essence.
goodness. This it's so next level once you start understanding that at what level the team is operating. They're literally guiding, they're the ones literally guiding the BIS, the central banks for all central banks,
Yeah.
literally helping them, to understand how this should work. And they've been working on this for a long time. And
This was
now,
some this
sorry,
one
go ahead.
just to kind of touch on that right there. This was some research that Smoke did. If you guys don't follow Smoke over on Twitter, make sure and do that. But he kind of hits it right here. So this is HSBC, Barclays, Santander. This is the consortium that essentially is looking at tokenized money. They're saying that Quant Network managing that infrastructure for this framework, which is going to be operational in 2026, or is this already operational now?
Oh, it gets better, Paul. It gets a
Let's hear
lot
it.
better.
Let's hear it.
So, all if you look at the secure asset transfer protocol, you look at literally La Chain project, you look all of the different projects all over the world, the regulated library network. These are all projects that are operating in sandboxes. And Quant admitted that literally everything they're doing is in a sandbox environment. So right
Yep.
now, if you look at Project Rosalind involved two central banks, Bank of Canada, Bank of England, numerous commercial banks, and many fintechs. This was years ago, where
Mhm.
Quant confirmed, and this was headed by the BIS Innovation Hub, right? The central banks for all central banks. Quant admitted this was made public by the BIS and by Quant, that literally Quant was the infrastructure layer for Project Rosalind, which allowed corporations and fintechs and governments to build use cases for CBDC. And so
Bingo.
they were creating custom APIs. Now,
Yeah.
Quant in the last 30 days has become very bold, and they're just literally plainly out saying, they're plainly saying what we've been trying to tell the community. Now Quant is saying literally, we are the infrastructure for this new fourth industrial revolution, is literally what
Yeah.
they're saying. Because just recently they put out some statements. They said, this is right on the Quant website. They said, in 2025, 2026 is when the infrastructure was being determined. And the BIS, they mentioned Project Agora, the Regulated Library Network, which is all the XRP ledger. But they go and mention this in the article, and then they say this is sorry, they said that the BIS and the central bankers have decided the model. The first layer is going to be CBDC layer. The second layer is the commercial bank layer, tokenization,
Right.
tokenized deposits, for example. And the third layer is the horizontal interoperability layer that makes it all work together. And then they go on to explain in the article that Quant is that horizontal layer. So literally Gilbert Verdian, and he said, like, this has been decided in 2025, 2026. We can see that by this project and that project and this project. He mentions the projects. And then he literally says, but 2026 is where we go live at scale. Is they're literally just saying it straight up right now. It's
Yeah.
unbelievable
There's
what they're
Project
saying.
Agora right now.
Yeah, and that's 7 central banks. But see, this is where it gets even crazier. Gilbert Verdian admitted when he was talking about the regulated liability network, he said, and this is right on Quant's website, he said, we provided the programmability, the interoperability, and the custom APIs for the regulated liability network, but we also partnered with R3, who's bringing over the shared ledger where all the tokenized assets will reside. The
Mm.
shared ledger is the XRP ledger. And this is what I cracked the code on, and not, a lot of people don't know that because I only started my channel last year. But the shared ledger, the regulated liability network, the unified ledger, the FinTernet, financial internet, it's all the XRP ledger. The regulated liability network used to be called the regulated internet of value, but they
Yeah.
changed the name real quick because everybody knows that Ripple is building the internet of value. But Gilbert Verdian admitted many times we provide the programmability and interoperability for the liability for the regulated liability network. Technically, the internet of value because it used to be called the regulated internet of value in a city document. See, I prove in my deep dives that it's all the same thing. Like I said, the unified ledger, shared ledger, regulated liability network, and the FinTernet. They say FinTernet for financial internet instead of saying internet value. So when Gilbert Verdian is saying like all the CBDCs, the majority of the CBDCs are being built on private versions of the public XRP ledger. This is right on Ripple's website.
Yeah.
This is people are not getting it. But so the private CBDCs, the CBDCs are being built on private versions of the public XRP ledger, right? And the
Hmm.
interledger protocol allows the public XRP ledger to be the bridge for these CBDCs.
So that gets
Enbridge.
into their fusion rollup, which is
Yeah.
essentially where they're rolling into. I mean, that's their 2026 milestone. This essentially is going to be I guess, their latest milestone, which is the mainnet launch of the fusion rollup. This is going to unify all these different public and private chains under one place.
Yep.
So,
And
hmm,
he said, and he in Twitter, he said just recently, I think this was a few months ago, he said we provide so in one interview on their website, he says we provide the programmability, interoperability, and custom APIs for the regulated liability network, which is again regulated internet value. But we partnered with R3, who's bringing over the shared ledger, which is the same thing. That's the internet of value. That's the XRP ledger. But now on Twitter, he said we provide the Quant Fusion rollup, the multi-ledger rollup for the institutional internet of value.
right, right.
Gilbert Verdian is making it very clear that they are not the internet of value. They are the internet of trust. And Gilbert Verdian has said at least 10, 15 times, we are the internet of trust. But he says we provide the programmability for the institutional internet of value, for the regulated internet of value. These are the CBDCs.
You've probably heard me mention Uphold before, and there's a reason I keep talking about them. Uphold makes it incredibly easy to bridge the gap between your portfolio and the real world. This has not been done before. Their Uphold Debit Card is the best example of that. It lets you spend your crypto or your cash anywhere Visa is accepted, all while earning 4% back in XRP on every purchase. It's the easiest way to stack rewards on your daily spending. Download the Uphold app for more and get started.
Why would there be somewhat of a transparency gap? Because if you look at Quant working directly with these private banks, government institutions, it's kind of a lack of visibility in terms of the adoption metrics. Why do you think that is? Because I think that's a pushback that some people have said about this, is that there doesn't seem to be a full transparency here.
Oh, 100%. Just the same reason for why they gave 5 different names for the XRP ledger: unified ledger, shared ledger concept, regulated liability network, so on and so forth. And then Project Agora, Project Enbridge. It's all the XRP ledger for the most part, right? It's
What about,
okay.
okay, well, let me ask you, what about the centralization risk? Because this, of course, is another concern. It's kind of like what we're dealing with Swift right now. It's over centralization of money movement.
Yeah.
And if you look at Quant Network, I think they own the proprietary software. So if the central enterprise ceased to operate, what would be the long-term, I guess, decentralization and survival of the
Yeah,
Overledger? How
that's
would that
that's a very
work?
good that's a very good question. What I understood from Gilbert Verdian is that they just patented some of the core, but everything else is on GitHub and open source.
Okay,
There's
all
a few
right.
things they patented, which are it's way above my pay grade, but they patented a few things at the core, but everything's open source on
Yeah.
GitHub. And Gilbert Verdian explained that Quant Overledger, well, the Quant Fusion rollup is actually going. This is technically going to be hyper decentralized because
Mm.
everybody, because he was asked about that centralization, and he said we're actually hyper decentralized. This was a few years ago in an interview, but we're going to that hyper decentralization now with the Quant Fusion rollup, because the reason that is because any individual, corporation, anybody can literally participate in the network by hosting gateways. So it actually becomes more decentralized than regular DeFi because it's decentralization
Yeah.
for everything. Like everybody can participate and bring their own nodes and bring their own connectors, bring their own nodes for any
Mhm.
blockchain, whether it's permissionless, private, public, any blockchain can connect. As long as you follow the specs, you connect. And that's why people have no clue what's coming with Quant Fusion.
Yeah.
Because this is it. Like they've been working 8 years to get to this point, what they just announced right now. That it's a
This
very,
could
very
be a
big deal.
big advantage for them. I mean, because you look at Cosmos or Polkadot, those are layer 0 and 1 frameworks right now. Those are kind of structural ecosystems around how this will work with. I think Cosmos has what is it called? IBC, interbank or interblockchain communication. Then you got Chainlink, which is, the Oracle side of it, which used a decentralization of networks that are using independent node operators. So that's a competitor, I would say, but Quant doesn't
Well,
have its own blockchain.
no,
So
I think it's different though. I think it's different, and I think that's what the Chainlink community doesn't understand is because my understanding is, and I know that they've come up with some other stuff where
yeah.
but it's mainly an Oracle network, my understanding, and so it bridges data. You can bridge. You're
Well, yeah,
bridging.
and Quant can scale. That's the
Yeah.
advantage.
Well, Quant's not
Because
only. Oh, sorry.
think about the possibility of new chains coming online.
Oh,
This essentially would set on top of that for more advanced technology, especially as AI starts to get integrated more and more into blockchain.
oh yeah.
My question is we probably are going to see an AI developed blockchain maybe within the next 18 months.
Well, Quant
And
interconnects. Sorry, interconnects
that would be
AI as
huge.
well.
That would be huge for Quant.
Oh,
Yeah.
they made it very clear. Their interoperability between AI, Quant Overledger is interoperability for any to any. So AI, blockchains, legacy
Yeah.
systems, any software, databases, everything. But I want to explain something here to make something clear. Is Quant the difference between Quant and Chainlink? And there are many, but Quant
Mhm.
is connecting the legacy systems to blockchain and allowing them to build multi-chain applications, picking the best features of each
Yeah.
blockchain. This is not the same as Chainlink at all. Chainlink is simply bridging the data, my understanding, allowing the data of the real world to come to the blockchain so that the smart contracts know when to execute. But Quant is completely different because again, it's connecting those like Quant will overlay on top of Chainlink and XRP and Ethereum. And you
Yeah.
pick whatever you want from Chainlink, use whatever you want from Chainlink, use
Exactly.
whatever you
Yeah.
want from Ethereum, right? So yeah, so it's not the same
Jesse,
interoperability.
why do you think that we don't see? Yeah, I mean, because you're already talking about central banks that are essentially going to be utilizing this kind of technology. Commercial banks, even global supply chains would probably come into this. Now you're dealing with, the whole idea of, what is, I would say, is regulatory alignment, because it's essentially laying on top of that. This is patented, it's proprietary. Why wouldn't the US government work with this in correlation to essentially utilize this for interconnectivity across all blockchains across a global footprint of what finance is going to be? What we
Yeah,
want.
I think they are. I think they're working definitely with it because Gilbert Verdian made a statement the other day. He's like programmable euro, programmable pound,
Yeah.
check mark, and then he said programmable US dollar question mark. So he's literally
Uh,
saying because when Gilbert Verdian, when they say we provide the programmability for money because they have like new programmable money, this literally is for all the money, for all the CBDCs,
mhm.
for all of it. And that's why he can safely say we provide the programmability for the internal value, for the regulated internal value,
Yeah.
which is technically all the CBDCs, all the money.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
it's 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 huge. Like
I'm
it's
surprised the token hasn't started to move, because I know the token has a very strict hard cap supply. What is it, like 14.5 million or
yeah,
so?
less than Bitcoin, 2/3 of Bitcoin,
Yeah, so
14 million.
basically already all of it in circulation. So why wouldn't, especially if you look at a fiat to crypto SaaS, basically is what you're talking about. It's a
Yeah,
fiat to crypto software as a service. This would seem as though it would have heavy activity right now, especially as we start to see tokenization really going mainstream. Now you've got, I don't know if clarity is going to go through or not, but the point is, I don't think this needs clarity at all. Where XRP, I feel like, does need, or Ripple does need clarity to start to really do some things unique here in the United States. So,
Maybe in the United States, but one thing about Ripple is that RippleNet has been always fully compliant, a KYC compliant, AML compliant. They have a
yeah.
global rule book that we're seeing in Project Agora, Project Enbridge, Liability Networks, this rule book that the DTCC, Donald Donahue, helped them to create the rule book.
Mm,
Oh my goodness. The Global Payment Steering Group was literally, the chairman was Donald Donahue. We talked about that, me and you. He was the chairman of the
yep.
DTCC. He was the
Mhm.
CEO and president of the DTCC, went and became chairman of the Global Payment Steering Group, and they created which Ripple founded. So imagine that. The former CEO of the DTCC literally creates the Global Payment Steering Group and is the chairman from day one with Ripple. Ripple founded this group. And they
Mhm.
created the global rule book, which Ripple has. So RippleNet is very, very compliant. That's what I've been telling the community. Listen, when they were saying like they're worried about this and that in the lawsuit, this is all BS in my opinion. But you're right that I think in the US it will help adoption, and there's definitely some benefits there.
Yeah.
But Ripple's got a lot of things under their sleeve that I think people are not realizing, especially RippleNet being fully compliant.
With already integration into CBDCs globally, because there's so many countries that are developing them. Then you have
Oh,
commercial applications. Why not see that integrated into the US, especially as if in fact we do get clarity, a lot of this could start to open up on a regulatory framework for not only companies but governments.
oh, absolutely. And sorry, I remember now what you asked is about the price. Why didn't we, the
Yeah, why
price?
is it moving? Yeah.
I think because that's why I did some deep dives on that. I think it's because everything's being built in sandboxes. That's what I understood from Quant, because Quant is very specific that you don't need to pay for the Quant license yet, which will use QNT, and also to validate the transactions as
Okay.
well in the network. You don't have to pay that until you go live. So all of the commercial banks, enterprises, governments, they're all building solutions right now, what we call MDApps,
Yep.
within the sandbox environment. But when they go live with their application, then they'll have to pay for the Quant license. And so they've been working in these sandbox environments now for
How
literally like 3 or 4 years.
I wonder, I got to get a quant developer on because I wonder if MDApps are operating on essentially an abstraction layer above the chains.
That's what it is. Very
Okay.
complex abstraction layer. Yeah.
Why wouldn't this start to work in other areas that where blockchain is starting to be incorporated? Because you could have developers basically isolate different tasks and send them to the blockchain best suited for the job, like an AI developer would do, because that's exactly what it's doing now. I mean, if you guys are vibe coding out there, you understand the utilization of tools that these AI bots are doing. So I'm just wondering, because you could essentially execute smart contracts on Ethereum for complex business elements. You could settle payments on bank controlled,
Yeah.
ledgers like Corda, okay,
Yeah.
or a CBDC.
Yeah.
And then you could anchor things like data logs, which is proof of delivery, like on Bitcoin,
Yeah.
so, huh,
Well,
interesting.
they've put out some serious statements about where they're going with AI with Quant, and unfortunately, I didn't read them this morning. It's been a while, so I can't really quote them. But Quant is literally they're connecting the AI world with blockchain, with the legacy, everything. Quant
Yeah.
is that true
And
end
here's
to end.
here's a killer app that you have to think about. I'm just thinking through this as a developer, is there's no single point of failure.
No,
That's huge.
no, and it's
This is
future
like
proof.
the one thing that every dev is trying to build is no single point of failure.
Yeah, and it's future proof too, because again, being one of the top cybersecurity experts in the world, being responsible for the security of nations, because he explains that, listen,
Yeah.
these central banks have what are called critical national infrastructure. You can't shut it down, and you got to make sure that whatever it's using, there's no mess up here. Like this is
Right.
critical national infrastructure. So he understood, him and his team, that you need to build an operating system, and it needed to be done a very specific way, because he understood that the internet was never made to move money as well. So it's future proof as well. Any future blockchain, that's what he explained. And when they did the ICO, he said to the community, he said, listen, what can you do with it? We don't know. That's where we're asking you to build on it. Because it's almost like unlimited use cases if you think about it. If you can connect any legacy system, any blockchain, any AI solution, any to any API, anything,
Yeah.
any software, databases, CRMs, And like if you look at sorry, what is it called Zapier and
Zapier.
Make,
Yeah.
all of those, Quant automatically connects to every 5,000 app on Zapier and Make.com.
Wow.
And so it's any to any. That's why he said we don't know what you can build. Like it's
Yeah.
because imagine he said we are the Microsoft Windows. If you think about it, we're like Microsoft Windows with a router on top. Microsoft Windows, what allowed us to go from the second industrial age, from the manufacturing age, to the third industrial age or the third industrial revolution, which was the information age. It was the operating system that did that. It
Yeah.
allowed the interoperability in their computer, I guess, and with the internet or whatever, it allowed us to just press a button, boom, we're in the internet world. But without Microsoft Windows, it never would have happened. So Gilbert Verdian, that's what he did. He created kind of same concept with a router on top because he understands the architecture of the internet. He
Yeah.
understands because that's where his industry comes from. Being one of the top cybersecurity experts in the world, his industry comes. He explains in his ICO that his industry comes from the internet originally being built not to move money. That's why like originally the internet was supposed to be a protocol we communicate. They never thought that we were going to build all these different use cases and pile this like money and different things on the internet. So that's where his industry comes from. Because
Yeah.
so I'm not explaining it well, but literally they had to secure the internet because it was never meant to do everything we're doing on it, and that's where
Right. Yeah.
his profession comes from. So he understood that.
I sat on a CTO advisory group that works with a bunch of these different tech companies and mostly it's developers and chief technology officers that are mainly in, I won't say Fortune 500, but maybe Fortune 2500 companies. And one thing that came up recently was this whole idea of the quantum threat. And I thought this was interesting. What we derived was that essentially the entire digital economy that we're running on today, which is including blockchain, Bitcoin, Ethereum, doesn't matter, all these rely on asymmetric cryptography. Okay. Because of that, what you're dealing with is the bad guys are out there harvesting now to decrypt later. So when
So
quantum does arrive, they've got the harvested data and essentially developing a quantum threat where they would be basically decrypting it retrospectively, in essence. So that's a major concern to me, especially if you look at the blockchain nightmare that seems to be brewing right now when it comes to
yeah,
quantum risks as a whole. How would quant solve or eliminate some of this?
yeah. I think I don't know, but I do remember, if I'm not mistaken, I do remember Gilbert Verdian explaining that I think he said it has been solved, that they have solved it. I think, but
Okay.
I'm not sure about that. But
Well,
yeah,
I think one thing I read was that their counter strategy was what they called crypto agility or something,
okay, okay,
um, where essentially because it's an overledger, it's like an API operating
yeah,
on,
yeah. It's an
2.5.
API, exactly, API gateway. That's what it is. Yeah,
So so this would essentially allow that to model around a quantum risk. So instead of waiting for individual blockchains to upgrade their core consensus, Quant would basically be able to go in and flex around that. So interesting, man. I wonder if they have this locked down and they just haven't released the information yet.
it's possible. They have QuantNet, they have Quant Fusion, they have Quant like it's and the solutions they're building too are not these small solutions like DeFi
Yeah,
level. This is like literally infrastructure for nations. Like this is infrastructure for money. They were the first one to create a language, a programming language for money.
yeah,
I can't
yeah.
remember what's the name of it. It's leaving
Hmm.
my mind right now, but a programmable language for money. And so you're programming money. Like with Quant, you're literally saying if this and this and this happens, then
Yep.
send $1,000 to my daughter, buy $200 worth of this stock, $100,000 here. Like you're programming money, you're programming logic, which is not good at the end of the day for CBDCs. I'm sorry to tell you because I know you you
Yeah.
don't like it more than I do when it comes to those
Yeah.
programmable CBDCs. But yeah, it's the
Well, you
solution.
think about that statement though, for Q Day is the crypto agility statement that I heard or watched them talk about. Because if you think about that, then essentially an API operating system could handle a lot of these upgrades faster. So as ETH or any blockchain out there, traditional blockchain, starts to make upgrades, you've got the ability to handle that upgrade much faster as more of an API layer. So if a company were using Quant's Overledger to send them send quantum safe instructions, but the destination blockchain itself is still using legacy,
Hmm.
then that's the question. Maybe that's where Quant would be protecting the end use against quantum, which is kind of like the bridge component that we're dealing with right now, where bridges are very risky. So man, this is a
Yeah.
lot,
And
of stuff. What would you say as far as adoption, when you look at adoption curves that are happening, I think right now in the US, until they get clarity, or whether we get it or we don't get it, the
mhm.
point is that you have to have some vision. Have you been watching what's going on in Japan?
No, not.
So essentially, they put RLUSD is essentially you can utilize it
Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah.
inside the ecosystem there. They
Yeah.
basically greenlit RLUSD as
And
a
they're gonna do
stable
it
coin.
everywhere. They're
So
gonna do it everywhere, Paul.
yeah, so that's huge. And maybe what we end up with here is a new emerging region in the world that is way ahead, much like what the US was when Wall Street and Silicon Valley were launched. It was an emerging, because unfortunately, I'm wondering if the US is going to actually fall behind on all of this.
They need to get this passed.
It's advancing so quickly
Yeah, they need to get this
in
passed.
terms of the technology. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, 100%. They need to get this passed. But don't you find it interesting, Paul, how USDT is obviously, in my opinion, is a three-letter agency operation to prop up Bitcoin and prop up digital currencies, right?
Yeah.
So they print this out of thin air. They're literally printing US dollars, what they were doing. Nobody
Yep.
stops them, right? You can't do that unless you're a three-letter agency, in my opinion. They did this for years. It helped to basically ramp up Bitcoin, made it very lucrative, and made it very shiny object for crypto in general, right? It
Hmm.
propped up the market with that, plus liquidity and all these other things too. But USDT was very instrumental in that, if I'm not mistaken here. And then now that Ripple is ready, they're starting to scale down USDT everywhere. They're
Well, and
starting,
Mika, of
yeah,
course, has locked it out.
yeah. Isn't that
Many people,
interesting?
it is interesting, the interesting timing. Is that what
Yeah,
you mean?
yeah,
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 the
yeah,
timing.
yeah, yeah.
I mean, with Mika locking it out, now you've got Japan coming in and pushing RLUSD, which is a major trading part of the United States. You have Ripple right now on essentially the precipice of, because these next 2 weeks will decide how the US is going to go forward. And unfortunately, we are dealing with some lawmakers up there by the name of Warren that just cannot let this go. I still think there might be an opportunity here where this housing bill is held hostage for the Clarity Act. Have you followed this?
A bit. I mean, from
So
you and
Warren wants this housing bill to essentially secure, the housing bill in a nutshell just is not allowing major corporations to buy up single family homes. Okay. So, which is what a lot of these major corporations have been doing. They've been sucking up these single family homes in these depressed markets, and it's getting ready to get worse. So the housing bill Trump puts on hold because many people would say, all right, Trump's protecting his buddies who are over there doing real estate acquisitions. If he says, well, listen, I'll give you the housing bill if in fact you give me the Clarity Act. So I think there's a little bit of trading, even though he's got a very short window to get that done, because otherwise I think they push this housing bill through as soon as the Democrats take control of the Senate, which could happen in, the fall.
yeah, it's these people you mentioned, like this girl, and I'm not gonna call her a lady, but it's unbelievable. How is it that if this would have happened years ago, we would have had these type of people in government. I mean, people would have burned down the cities in the
Yeah.
country. Like the stuff that we're allowing these evil puppets to do, it's unbelievable. Like,
It
and
it's
I'm just
getting
careful to
worse
what I
too,
say.
man. It's
Oh,
getting
it's
worse.
unbelievable. It's unbelievable what she's done. Like, if you look at everything she's done, anything good, anything that's good for the public, anything,
Yeah.
she's fought out all their policies. Her and all the other ones like her. It's unbelievable what they're doing to the country. It's absolutely unbelievable.
Well, I think you have to understand, guys, that we are in a very interesting point right now in American history.
Oh yeah.
And it is a time in which either we will look back and say this was when America continued its powerhouse juggernaut, or it was the period in which the US let it slip through their hands, because they essentially have the possibility, we have the possibility to do that. So,
Well, if you look at all the previous administrations, the last 2, 3 administrations, listen, I know people don't like talking about politics sometimes, and you say something and they think you're all crazy and but if people really look at the policies of the last 2 or 3 administrations, what they did
yeah,
to the country is unbelievable. It's unheard of. In my opinion, there was a goal to just
yeah, yeah,
destroy America, and that's what Trump is trying to do. He's trying to save it, and but he's got, he didn't realize how deep the swamp was. I think maybe he knew, but when you say we're gonna clean the swamp's pretty deep. 'Cause I spent
yeah,
years researching that, and it's
yeah.
deep, very deep.
Very, very deep. Well, I mean, if you guys want to go read a book, there is one that I have for you that will explain what Jesse just said. And it's a book called Family of Secrets.
Wow.
Okay. This is about the Bush dynasty and the invisible government that's been hidden from history over the last 50 years. So go read that book. You'll see it. You'll find it on Amazon. No link in the description, but
No, no.
Russ Baker is the author. It's a great book. I just finished reading it about a month ago. I have some good books. I got to start putting those out, because when I put out a book recommendation, I'm going to tweet it today. I put
Nice.
out book recommendations and people always are like, "Man, I've never seen this book." So it's like, what is it? Diary of the Economic Hitman, the
Well,
original version. Have
okay, I
you read
wasn't
the
sure if I should
original
say it
version
because I don't
by
want your
Perkins?
channel to be shut down, but
Yeah,
Confessions of an Economic Hitman?
that one. Yes. All right. So
Confessions of an
that
Economic
one,
Hitman? Yeah.
the first edition, not
Oh my
they don't
goodness.
even you can't even get it anymore.
No,
It's
no, no.
like black
No.
market. You have to
Yeah,
find it used.
John Perkins.
John
Yeah.
Perkins, yeah.
And the other one I would recommend it. I don't think he wrote a book, but this one I don't even know if I should say it. But if your channel gets shut down, I do apologize in advance.
Easy.
Uh,
Okay, don't say it. Don't say it. We'll put it.
well, okay, like a ship, a boat, a ship with
There
two
you go.
P's. Okay, so first name is Kevin,
There
and
you
the
go.
last name is like a ship. If you're in a boat
Yep, there you
with
go.
two P's.
All right.
Okay,
Go read. Yeah, go
Google
check
that
that
guy.
out. I'm
Google
looking
that
at
guy.
my collection of what would be probably illegal books in about 20 years.
Yeah. Well, it's yeah, for sure. Yeah, in 20 years, if you want that book, you gotta get a chip in your hand. Not 20 years, sorry. I don't
Yeah.
want to panic
Yeah.
the people,
Well, it may be faster
uh,
than that, man.
but Kevin Ship, my friend, with two P's. He used to work for a three-letter agency. He held the
Wow.
highest positions, all the highest positions, literally majority of highest positions within that agency, and became a
Yeah.
whistleblower.
Yeah. Hey,
Anyway,
we've got a lot of news hitting the market this week. We'll cover that with a ton of interviews we're going to be covering. Jesse, it's always fun doing deep dives with you. Thank you so much for coming in today. We
it's an
appreciate it.
honor to be Paul. I really appreciate it, man. I really
You
appreciate it.
bet.
Stars all over the map, but when you get me started on Quant and XRP,
It's fun.
I
Yeah,
get
it's well,
hyper.
it's
I don't
interesting to
even know where
kind
to
of get
go.
into this. Yeah. It's interesting to get into this stuff because I think a lot of people don't realize how close we are. The fortunate thing is, I recognize it very easily because I've seen these times before when we were first edging into the birth of the internet and what Tim Berners-Lee was about to unleash on the world. These are the same signs that I saw then, I see now. Same thing when mobile compute started in 2007, when Apple, released their iPhone. And of course, right after that, social media was launched. So a lot of unique timing here for the finance sector. And I think there's some very interesting companies, Quant being one of them, that will be in the forefront of this for sure.
It's absolutely huge, Paul. If I could just add, it's huge because we are going to the fourth industrial revolution. That's what people don't realize. The third industrial revolution was the information age, which
Mm,
was just transformed the way society works, like
exactly. Yeah.
unbelievable. But now
Yeah.
we're going to the fourth industrial age, which
Yep.
is blockchain, AI, and other things all combined, all basically very powerful transformational technologies, but all complementary to one another at the same time. So the transformation we're going to see in 20, 30 years, in the next 10, 15, 20 years, is going to make the internet look like a joke.
Yeah.
Mark my words on that one, because the
Yeah.
internet didn't have the internet to piggyback off,
Exactly. Yeah.
right? That's why it's moving so fast.
Well, and you're right, because you look at previous technology shifts. The internet was a magnitude, order of magnitude in terms of growth,
Yeah.
and the era that it placed prior to that, many of you guys probably don't remember prior internet, but I was around during that era, and that was a big deal. The world ran just fine, but it didn't run at speed.
Mhm.
And now you apply blockchain and AI into this, dude, and then you throw robotics at this. Holy,
No, it's insane what's coming. It's the
yeah,
mind cannot fathom what's coming. Just AI
that's
alone, let
yeah,
alone never mind blockchain. But when you connect all the three together,
yeah,
like take the internet, multiply 100 times.
yeah.
It's gonna be stupid.
It's
It's
very, very
yeah.
interesting, concerning if we don't get our hands around it. And then also, I think for society, it's going to create some shifts that maybe even we don't realize are going to be happening. I think a lot of people have already started to see a little bit of this, which is why it's so important for people to get into digital assets, because this is essentially the wealth preserver and the maker at the same time. Whether you're someone who's achieved some wealth in life or you're a person that has not, this is the time where
Oh yeah.
actually both societies can benefit from this. So very intriguing issues for sure. All right, guys, you know what to do. Like, subscribe. If you're not following Jesse over on Apex Crypto Insights, make sure and visit him over on YouTube. And we will catch you next time right here on the XRP Pod. Take care.